Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Yes, Nate Bauer tomorrow. Neil Coulong on the Steelers on Wednesday. Thursday, Jerry Dulac stopping by. Time now for 49 good San Francisco seconds. I thought it was the perfect time to do it because there is nothing to report.
No, bye week. I love it. They don't lose.
Only with their fan base.
That's true.
Your people. Group of haters. That's true. Group of haters. 49er fans. Not beloved. Are you surprised your team is not beloved?
No, not really. Anytime you have teams that have players that are very good and they tell you how good they are, it's going to happen.
Your team, that's like, whatever. Okay, so let's just get to Saturday. Let's just get right to it. Look, the bottom line is, you got to make it simple. And that is, you got to find 6 yards.
Yeah.
Okay? You got to find 6 yards. You got to find 3 at the end of the first half. You got to find 3 in the fourth quarter. You do that, you win the game. Now, other things happened during the game that were crazy. Now, let's. I want to give Ohio State credit where its credit is due in a couple of areas. Number one, crowd's going wild, crazy, record crowd, 111,030 on hand for the game. Ohio State had 0 flinches, no false starts. Never flinched. You have to give a team credit for doing that. I think playing at Oregon helped them.
Yes.
Achieve the discipline they needed because they'd already gone through it. I think that helped. But to their credit, they didn't flinch. Even with a new left tackle, did not flinch, who had been playing guard. I mean, he's a veteran. But that's something you have to give credit where credit's due. Number two, their ability to then close out the game, starting from their own 1 yard line, you have to give a team credit when they do something like that. You have to. It was a game where a couple crazy things happened in the game. First and foremost, one of the scores for Ohio State happened after Penn State had forced a 3-and-out. We all know that. Okay? And Elliott Washington is called for unsportsmanlike conduct. Now, I want to point out that the Jalen Reed unsportsmanlike conduct play, he took off his helmet. I mean, it's automatic. You got to do it. The official has to call that. Okay? Right? But the one on Washington, this is a no feel for the game call. Like, no feel for the game. You have no feel for the game at all. Right. None. He slipped and fell. Carnell Tate did. Right? Slipped. He wouldn't tackle. He slipped and fell, and Washington goes down with him. Washington gets up. Washington's going back on the field.
Yeah.
Because guess what? He's part of the special teams unit. He's blocking the gunners on the punt, so he has to go back out. Right? So I wanted to ask yesterday when I was at practice, like, what did he do or say? And they said he literally said nothing. He only looked down at him because he didn't want to step on him.
Yeah, that's
right. There are people who are saying, "Oh, he dragged the foot." He did not drag the foot. He stepped over him.
Stepped over him.
And the reason he looked down at him Right? Again, these are people that were 5 feet away. They said he was trying not to step on him. That's why he looked down at him. That is one of those calls where you sit back and say, as an official, you have no feel for the game if you make that. I mean, I'm talking about no feel for it. Zero.
Exactly.
All right? You have to use some common sense when you're doing the job. That was no common sense. And Penn State should have had the ball back off at 3 and out. They ended up getting a touchdown. What was the final score? Oh, that's right. It was 7 points. The interception in the end zone, let's give credit where credit's due. That is Igbenogson makes a great play. Yeah. And replay helped out in terms of making the call. And it ends up, it's a great play. And, sometimes you've got to be able to, look at the other guy and say, look, the other guy just makes a great play. And replay, showed it and went, oh. You're like, you know what? Just like on the Will Howard fumble, right? Replay, that's called a touchdown, which is what by the way, what the officials should call. The officials on the field should call that a touchdown. Why? Because they have replay to back it up. Give them a call to confirm or overturn, right? Which is what they did. And replay did the job there. He fumbled at the 1.5 or something like that, went over the pylon out of bounds. Penn State got it on a touchback. All right? So those two replays, one that benefited Penn State, one that benefited Ohio State, turned out that way. All right? Judkins fumbled the ball.
Yeah. Yep. Made a move.
Well, he caught the ball, turned, stepped.
Absolutely.
Right? And got hit. Mm-hmm. No offense. He completed the catch.
Yeah.
Right? He wasn't juggling the ball. He caught it, started to turn to run upfield, and got hit. That was a fumble. On the Wallace play, I couldn't tell. I kept looking at it over and over again.
I thought it was incomplete.
Well, I couldn't tell because the Ohio the low angle one, the Ohio State player goes running across, so I can't see how he finished or whether the ground up. I couldn't tell, and it was called complete on the field. But because when the Ohio State player ran in front, that's where I kind of lost it. Maybe we had both the scoreboard view and we had the network TV view. I don't know if they had a different angle on it than we did, so I couldn't tell on that one at all. And my goodness, there was a lot of holding in that game.
Yep.
Wow.
Sure was.
Whew, man. There was a lot of holding in the game. Now, thank goodness nobody stepped over anybody else. They would have called that. But holding, no, we wouldn't want to call that. Crazy. That is... But Ohio State gets a lot of credit for you're down 10-0. They bounce back. The touchdown pass to Igbuka was a huge play, kind of steadied their ship.
Yeah. Absolutely great play.
Right.
Phenomenal play call by Chip Kelly on that play.
And brought him across the field, had time to make the play, did. And then they took the lead, and that was on the play that right after the egregious call on Washington. And look, when you take the ball at the 1 yard line and you close the game out in the final 5 minutes, to your credit, that's the kind of drive that people refer to. Wow, that's a major league,
no doubt,
drive right there by your offensive line and your running backs. I mean, that's major league right there. So I mean, that's how it played out. I mean, if Penn State finds 6 more yards, Penn State wins. Bottom line is, you got to find 6 more yards, and there may be another time you got to play them. You find the 6 yards, you'll win in advance. Now, let's get to the big picture. Right? Those, by the way, 2 excellent teams out there on Saturday.
Yep.
Ohio State is an excellent team. Penn State's an excellent team. Crowd was great, phenomenal. Incredible. 111,030, great, engaged the entire time, tremendous. Here's the big picture. the first rankings come out tomorrow night. I expect Penn State to either be 6 or 7. All right? Now, I know we always talk about 1-0, but I'll go big picture here for everybody. You're in a 4-game playoff to make the playoff. Okay? Starting on Saturday night. You're in a 4-game playoff to make the playoff. It's a different era. Okay? Was the loss to Ohio State fatal for the season? Absolutely not. Right? It's a loss, but now you've got to make sure moving forward. Just like Ohio State has to keep making sure, too. They've got to beat Indiana. They've got to beat Michigan. They've got other games. They'll beat Purdue this week. They'll be the prohibitive favorite. All right? But what you want to avoid is this. If you were in the undefeated pool, it's automatic you're in. Okay? Not even a question. It's just a question of seeding and whether you get the first round bye, which if you're undefeated, you will because you're the conference champion. Okay? So you get a first round bye. If you're in the one-loss pool, you're in. It's just a question of where you're seated. If you're in the two-loss pool, where a lot of teams are right now, Texas A&M suddenly fell into the two-loss pool. Clemson suddenly fell into the two-loss pool. All right. Now you are bringing opinion in as to whether you're in or not. Uh-oh. Now you're bringing opinion in from the committee as to whether you're deserving or not in the two-loss pool. If you're in the three-loss pool, you're out. It's really that simple.
I think so at this point, yeah.
Well, it's not that you think so. I know so. Yeah. You can't. There's too many teams to look at.
Yeah, you've got a couple teams undefeated that are going to at most have one, probably at most have one loss.
I mean, you just have too many people in front of you. So, in other words, LSU plays Alabama this week. Well, that is an elimination game. Saturday night, that's an elimination game. The loser of that game will have 3 losses in the regular season. To me, you can have a third loss if you're in the conference championship game. Now you get consideration. 3 losses in the regular season, you are not in. No. Simple as that. So the loser of the game between Alabama and LSU Saturday night is an elimination game because you can't fall into the 3-loss pool. It really is that simple at this time. 3 losses, no. 2 losses, now you bring opinion into it. 1 loss, you're in. All right? If you're in the SEC or the Big Ten. And I say that with all due respect, okay? The reason I say this, if Pitt goes all the way through and doesn't win the ACC, I'm sorry. Okay? The blowout the other, first of all, Pitt was only, ranked 18th to start with because of the schedule? At an undefeated team, 18th going in. Now, that's by people, for example, that do not have any power as to where everybody's ranked. But then you get blown out like that, right? You're off the grid. And that's a big problem. You're off the grid.
Clemson didn't help themselves either on Saturday.
Well, no, Clemson is now in the 2-loss pool. Texas A&M is now in the 2-loss pool. Yeah. And these are the problems that that at this time of the year you're running into. Yeah. That when you get to the 2-loss pool, you now are in the opinion area. So you go from undefeated, obvious, first round bye, 1 loss, lock for an SEC or a Big Ten team. 1 loss, you're a lock. Okay. Yeah. 2 losses, you bring opinion into it. 3 losses, you're out.
Yeah, and I think you bring opinion into it, and I think that first point ties even more to the 2-loss column. I think SEC Big Ten teams are going to get a lot stronger consideration than an ACC team or a Big 12. That's
exactly right.
There's no doubt about it, and for a good reason. You have played a tougher schedule.
Yep, all the way through, and that's where it makes a big difference, the conference that you're in. Right? So let's see here. Let's see. Those are rankings. I want to look at standings here. All right, so we'll just kind of go through conferences here. Okay, in the Big 12. So in the Big 12, who cares about that? Okay, BYU's undefeated. They're in great shape. Iowa State has 1 loss. Okay, they cannot afford another one because I think a 2-loss Big 12 team does not get in. Colorado's already a 2-loss team. Okay? So Iowa State cannot afford a second loss, and I'm not even sure they get there if they don't win the conference championship at 1 loss. Okay? So that's one. Okay, so now let's go to the ACC. In the ACC, Miami's undefeated at this hour in not just good shape, great shape. SMU only has the 1 loss. Okay? But they're on the fringe of it. I think when they get the poll out tomorrow night, they're not going to be one of the 12. They'll be in the top 25. Clemson has 2 losses. All right? They're going to have to win the conference, in my opinion, to get there.
I think so, too. I agree.
And then Pitt, they'd have to win the conference to get in.
Yep.
Even though they have only 1 loss. You're wondering, well, hey, Louisville won. Louisville's got 3 losses. They're out of it.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's where they are. When you get now to the SEC, right? In the SEC, we already know Georgia, great shape. Texas A&M has 2 losses now. That's an issue. Tennessee only has the 1 loss, but they still have to play Georgia. Okay, so it gets a little dicey. Texas only has the 1 loss. Then I talked about the LSU and Alabama situations. The loser of that game is going to have 3 losses.
Yeah, that's an elimination.
And that becomes elimination time. Ole Miss has 2 losses, but their strength of schedule is hurting them right now, and who they lost to is hurting them right now. But Georgia's in great shape. I think Tennessee's in very good shape. I think Texas is in good shape. Texas A&M really got hurt by that, and Texas A&M still has to play Texas.
Yeah, and yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the way it is. Now you get to the Big Ten. So let's get to the Big Ten. We already know that Oregon and Indiana are both undefeated. Ohio State, okay, down the stretch, I think they're in great shape. I think Penn State wins out, Penn State's in.
Yeah.
Okay? Nobody else is in the category. Okay? Nobody else.
No, I don't
okay?
think so.
They're the only 4 teams that can make it.
No.
Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, the only 4 from the Big Ten that can make it right now. Everybody else has 3 losses or more.
Yeah, and Ohio State basically controls your own destiny now at this point to get in the Big Ten title game. Indiana's got 2 or 3 at home.
Yeah,
Obviously that one on the road is a big one. You go to Ohio State. But then, obviously Oregon, I think, has a very favorable schedule down the stretch, too. Penn State's got to take care of business as well.
Oregon still has to play Washington.
Yep, still got to play Wisconsin at Camp Randall, too.
Has to play Wisconsin at Camp Randall because that game's next week, I think, right?
The Wisconsin game?
Yeah.
I believe so.
It's next week because Todd and Noah told me they were coming back there on the 16th. Does that sound right?
To the Camp Randall?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
That game's going to be on NBC. But they also have Washington. Now, why do I bring up Washington? The reason I bring up Washington is this. Dan Lanning's never beaten Washington. I don't think a lot of people realize that. And Dan Lanning's had some terrific teams. Now, that was during a time where Washington had great teams. So I want to talk about Washington now. I've watched Washington 3 times now. I watched them against Rutgers. I watched them against Indiana, 2 road games. And I watched them against USC Saturday night. You're saying, why didn't you watch the Michigan game? It was opposite of Penn State game. Okay? And so I did not see it. And this is what I saw and what I've seen with them. Will Rogers is a very good quarterback. He's very good. Throws a really nice ball.
I agree.
Very good quarterback. Every once in a while, they'll put Williams in just to change it up. But when they bring him in to change it up, it's usually for a play, not for a series. Usually a play here, a play there. The running back, Coleman, runs hard. Right? You know how you just kind of lollygag your way through the week? He's 180 of you.
That's right.
Hardest working guy in showbiz right there. All right. Had a 104 against USC. Denzel Boston, very good wide receiver. And they have Giles Jackson, the transfer from Michigan, who's very good. They've got Jeremiah Hunter, very good. But Boston's really good. I like him a lot. He's a good wideout. And Latu, the tight end, is very good. Defensively, Carson Bruner is an exceptional player. The linebacker, 42. On the long line of Bruners who have gone to Washington, he's the latest.
Exactly.
And he is a good – you want to talk about a guy that is a football player? Carson Bruner is a football player. He knows how to play the game. What struck me, though, is that I think they play – in watching them, I felt like they play like a lot of cover zero. Right? A lot of man, a lot of cover zero. Except on the one interception that Bruner got, they played zone on that play. Right? And it was like, oh. It's like, that's a zone. Right? And he dropped back and he picked it off. It was like really a terrific play. Their secondary is good. They don't give a lot of separation. What was interesting was when USC finally decided to, oh, what the heck, since he's lined up back there, let's run the ball. They carved out some big runs against them over and over and over again. Then, to the credit of Washington, they came up with a goal line stand on the verge of, like, it's win or to lose it. And they came up with a goal line stand. Moss threw for like 293 in the game, but boy, he had a lot of. You look at in the pocket. He had time, and guess what? Every time he turned around, nobody was open.
Right.
I mean, that was the part that was interesting. Like those, you're talking about Deuce Robinson, you're talking about Kyron Hudson, you're talking about Zachariah Branch, you're talking about Lane. Like, okay. Plus, I got McCree back at tight end. Like, okay. They weren't getting guys open. Either that, I question sometimes how well Moss sees the field. Right? After doing the game at the Coliseum, I kind of wonder how well he sees the field. Like, I think Drew sees the field better than he does. But that's what they bring to the table. Gross, the place kicker, got off to a tough start this year. He's kicking well again. Made a couple field goals the other night. Right? Reynolds had a big kickoff return, 50-yard kickoff return, helped set up a touchdown. Interesting, all their touchdowns were on the ground in that game. Coleman scored 2. Reynolds on a reverse scored 1, and then they had the 2 field goals. They had 3 touchdowns in the game. But look, this is not an untalented team coming here. It's not. They're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But they're also a good team. They can give you fits. The game's at 8 o'clock on Peacock. I don't get it. I don't get it. For radio, it's great for us.
Well, there's no doubt. Yeah.
It's great for us. I mean, there's no getting around that part of it. And there are probably a bunch of people. Somebody asked me about it last night at practice, and they said, "Yeah." He said, "You know what? There are probably a bunch of people that got Peacock for the Olympics and never took it off took it off their bill." I said, "So they're going to be fine."
Yeah, I think a lot of people that just initially sign up for Xfinity, I think usually get it, so they'll be all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
exactly how many people are signing up for Xfinity.
Well, I think if you sign up just for even internet initially, you get it. But then obviously after your trial, it goes up to whatever Peacock costs.
Well, they're not exactly doing that in droves right now. Most people either have it or they don't.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true.
All right. I've had all right. The streaming part of it, I've gone over this 1,000 times, so I'll make it 1,001. Okay. All right. You can't keep forcing this on fans. To me, streaming needs to be what it was for the Wisconsin game. NBC carries the game in conjunction with Peacock. So anybody that has streaming ability can get the game. Anybody who has over-the-air or cable can get the game. It maximizes your audience. When Penn State played USC at the Coliseum, the game was on CBS and on Paramount Plus. To me, that's how it's supposed to work. That's just my opinion. That's how it's supposed to work, where you're taking care of multiple audiences within both your over-the-air cable and streaming options. Right? That's how it should work. Doing this where it's exclusive is wrong. Right? I don't like the fact that the Big Ten did a great job of getting the maximum amount of dollars out of this. You're telling me NBC is going to pay less if they can't put it on Peacock? No. Nothing to do with that. I mean, I think the Penn State basketball game with Rutgers on December 10th is a Peacock exclusive.
Yeah, there's at least two.
There's another one before that, too. But what are you doing here?
Yeah.
You cannot force. I'm kind of getting sick and tired of having people force us to do something. Right? And I've talked about, I mean, to me, this is the equivalent of electric cars. Electric cars, I mean, I'll see one go by, I don't hear it. Right? Electric cars are amazing. I mean, really, really amazing. You think about it, it's amazing. But at the same time, it also, at the moment, is for most people cost prohibitive. Okay? Right? I'm not, right? But they tell us about by 2030 there's some mandate that, we have to buy, like, what? Okay? I don't feel like charging for 2 hours.
No. Nope.
Right? On the trip.
Go out in a traffic jam, then what do I do?
Right. I'm saying, though, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about this is the forcing part of it.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. Right? So if I'm a Penn State or Washington fan or just a fan of college football, you are forcing me to pay extra to watch this game on streaming? I'm already paying my cable bill. Why do I need to add on to it? I'm already on Hulu, for example. Say I don't, right? And that's what I'm using as my provider. I had to pay extra to get it. I had to pay extra? Why do I have to pay extra for it? I'm already paying. I mean, that part to me is wrong. That's and now from the league point of view, and from the Penn State and Washington point of view, don't you want the maximum number of eyeballs on your game instead of having it reduced dramatically? It's going to be reduced dramatically. And by the way, you're wondering what's NBC doing on Saturday night. They've got Florida State, Notre Dame at South Bend. Oh, what a game that will be.
And it's also where I think it would have helped, keeping, and this is why Fox is brilliant in a lot of ways. They have other options to air it on over the air on television. And that's why I think it's important to have sometimes have more than one channel for your subscribers.
Yeah.
Number one, they're paying a lot to begin with. And the other part of it, this is where the other option could be there. I get NBC not wanting to move Notre Dame. I understand that. That's their baby in a lot of ways. Fully understand it. But then this is where it would have helped have an NBC Sports Network still. This is where it would have helped having a lot of,
point.
having these games. And that's the huge advantage Fox has, where yes, they've got Big Noon, and people have their opinions on it. I get it. Right. But they also have FS1.
Right.
Also, obviously, subsidy of BTN. All of these things together are what make Fox, say the king of the Big Ten. I mean, all three networks have that piece of the pie, but Fox has that opportunity to showcase you more because of those options.
To me, whatever you do, you're doing everything you can to maximize your audience.
Sure.
So even when even something as simple as setting up a radio network, what's the best station we can be on in said market?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, if we can't get that, what's the second best? You know what I mean? You start going through, and that's how you have to do it. Okay. The streaming part. Thursday Night Football's a package. I got it.
You know it going in, too.
Okay, you don't
find out the week before.
Right. Suddenly you find out 6 days ahead of time, like the game is going to be on the streamer. I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, the game this week, who is it, the Bengals and the Ravens this week? Is the Thursday night game?
Yeah. I think the Eagles Commanders are the following week.
Right.
Yep.
But everybody's known since May, when they released the schedule, that it was going to be on Prime Video. In May. Here it's like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to stream your game. It's like, I have a cousin who's coming down from Massachusetts for the game. And she was like, well, I have to get her tickets. I already got her the tickets. And she said, how are you going to get them to me? I said, well, I got all day on Saturday. I said, I've got a game Friday night. I said, but, Saturday I've got all day. I can drive up and get you the tickets. She says, you do? I said, yeah. I said, the game starts at 8 o'clock. She says, what? We thought it was at noon. I said, no. Au contraire, mon frere. And, yeah. Yeah, it's I don't understand the philosophy behind it. I loved what the Big Ten did with Fox, CBS, NBC. I love that. That's an NFL model. That is great. Love it. And Fox, as you mentioned, has Fox Sports 1, which really helps. You have BTN to supplement everything else. That's great. I watched Washington USC Saturday night on BTN. Stem to stern. Okay? Great. But the Peacock thing just totally baffles me. Putting games exclusively on there baffles me. And last year in basketball, Purdue played Indiana last year in basketball, which was a terrific matchup. The game was on Peacock. I thought the idea was to get people to watch it. Not hold everybody hostage and force them to stream it. Because a lot of people are like, to hell with it, 2 hours, I'm not going to do that. I don't get it.
No. And that was I think, obviously, Peacock got very, very lucky. Well, I don't say very, very lucky, but fortunate in a way last year airing. They had a lot of Iowa women's basketball games.
Yeah.
Where you have Caitlin Clark. Yeah, and that's exactly. You can showcase, that's your proof right there. You can showcase without taking away a mass audience in an NFL playoff game and in a situation like this.
I also don't like the fact that it's pushed back to 8 o'clock. I mean, 7:30 is better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only 30 minutes.
No, it's
but
still.
But 30 minutes makes a difference in November.
It does.
But there's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. But I complained about this when it was released. This is not one of those Johnny-come-lately complaints here. I complained when it was released. I go, I don't know, you don't want games on Peacock. Right? And I think that they feel that by the end of the contract, there'll be so many more people streaming. Well, to be honest with you, Yes, our cable subscription's going down, but they're only going down slightly.
No.
Cable has not been flushed.
You're also at the point with these streaming services, and these meaning Peacock, Paramount, even ESPN Plus, you're not anywhere near what a streaming service is where people are using it for their entire television, where you're using Netflix or Hulu. You're nowhere close to any of that with what you offer content-wise. It's not. It's literally way far away from that. And that's another reason why I don't think by the end of the contract you're going to have that much of a difference. I think those that want the streaming service of this has, say, a good percentage has it by now. I don't agree with their assessment there at all.
I think the assessment is we're going to be all it's going to be an avalanche of streaming, right? And what's happening is streaming services are losing
a ton,
tens of millions of dollars every quarter.
Yeah,
every quarter they're losing tens of millions of dollars. It's not sustainable.
No.
So what happens? A guy like you, for example. You want to go out and you want to watch Sense and Sensibility because that's who you are. And as soon as it's over, boom, you drop it like a heartbeat.
That's right. But the other part of it is...
I want to watch Jane Austen. Good. Okay, great, Jason. We're going to watch the game over here if you want to.
I was the one that told NBC to flip to Heidi.
Oh...
I was not born, for the record. I wasn't even born when that happened.
I was alive when it happened. I remember when it happened. I was watching the game. I was only 10 years old. I went, what happened to the game?
It's unbelievable.
Who's the little girl?
That's why they say coming up next 60 minutes. They don't give you a time anymore at CBS. But I think the other part of it is also, and it's what's made Amazon more successful is, again, can you flex games out? Sure, but they tell you in the beginning of the year, hey, we're going to have Thursday Night Football. It's going to be on Amazon only. They're not going to blindside you where the NFL playoffs the week before, oh, by the way, your game's on Peacock. Oh, by the way, this game's on Peacock a week before or 10 days before. There's a big difference there. Because people, I don't want to say people have lives. People's, this part of their lives, but people need time to prepare for things a lot of times. And that's not even, those going to the game 1,000% do. Those not going to the game do too. And this is that spot where, you're putting it on Peacock and you're giving 6 days notice on it. It's tougher for fans to say, hey, well, I guess I'm going to have to subscribe and do this, this, and this. People live on budgets.
Right.
They really do.
It's, again, you're telling a fan base or fan bases, because I've been obviously Washington. You're telling
fan bases because
two
you're also
fan
doing it
bases
every week.
6 days ahead of time.
Yep.
Your game's on Peacock, which, by the way, was one of the last results I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
I thought Fox. I thought Fox might get the game.
So did I.
Like Fox Sports.
I thought if it was
something.
8 o'clock, Fox or FS1 would take it. Yep. Same here.
Right. I was hoping CBS would take it at 3:30, and then the game when it got dark. 5 o'clock the sun goes down. All right, so it's less than an hour and a half from kickoff now, which is like 3:38 or whatever that number is. It gets to it'll be like by Saturday it'll be 5 o'clock sundown. So in an hour and 22 minutes, before you even get to halftime, you're going to be dark in there. But I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah, that's.
It is what it is. But it's to say it's wrong is probably not the best way to put it. But it's
no, because you're entitled to it in the sense that what you paid.
They have a contract.
The deal, absolutely.
They have a contract. They're allowed to do it. But it just feels like you've added a burden,
a hurdle,
a burden for fans. Like, all right, I can't make the game now. I got to buy this thing.
Yeah,
and you're not increasing your audience doing that.
No. And the other part of it is, yes, Peacock has sports, Paramount, same thing. But how many of these fans bases, or how many of these fans, especially the older generational fans, how many are buying Peacock for anything else? Oh, there's so much on there. Yeah, there is, but they're probably not watching most of it.
Yeah.
And you're paying to stream it, and that's what makes it difficult. Obviously, yeah, you can get the trial, okay, but then what happens if this happens again?
Yeah.
Yeah, then suddenly it's and that's what makes it so much tougher for the fans.
Right.
And that's fans, period. We're not just talking Penn State, Washington. Notre Dame's on Peacock how many times? At least once a year. You have other teams on Peacock once a year. Michigan State was Peacock only.
Was it really?
I thought it was, yeah.
Oh, no. You may be absolutely right.
Yeah, it was, because it was NBC, and Wisconsin Penn State was that night. So, yeah, it was.
Like, I just don't think that's fair to do to fan bases, to force them to buy something. Like, I just don't think that's fair. I know they're allowed to do it. I understand that. It's part of the contract. I understand that. Like I said, when Penn State played Wisconsin, it was on Penn State, it was on NBC and Peacock. Now you're taking care of all your audience, and you're maximizing your audience to do it. When Penn State played USC, it was on CBS and Paramount Plus. Now you're maximizing the audience. People who have Paramount, no problem, can see the game. People who have CBS, cable, over the air, whatever, can see the game. I thought, that's the way sports has been. And
I stand corrected. That game was on Big Ten Network. The Michigan State game.
You finally had a moment where you could contribute.
But Notre Dame and
to the quality of the show.
I'll go one further. Notre Dame Louisville was Peacock only. That one I know for a fact. So that's one there where it was just a mistake, in my opinion.
Here's the bottom line. Okay. Jason knows how to steal streaming. So here's his number. Call 814-23. What? No issue? Issue? You were bragging in the hallway.
I do the max of, hey, I subscribe to, a service that is not streaming, and they give you streaming with that service. That's how I have Paramount. But yeah. So in theory, I'm paying for it, yes. Not stealing it.
Look, you have used all sorts of squirrely methods. It's just the reputation you have. Yeah.
I never understood the people that years ago when you had to have the old. Some of the young generations gonna have no idea what we're talking about here. Where you had to have the old cable box, where you had to order it from your cable company, and you had to have that to order the pay-per-views. I and some people obviously had the box that magically had everything. Man, oh man, I could never do that.
Yeah,
I no way.
Yeah, well, you again, your ability to steal cable, and you did that for years. Steal streaming, yeah, incredible. You really are a pirate. I'm sure the Peacock broadcast will be great. The whole
There's
thing.
no doubt.
I got that.
Yeah, they'll do a great production. They understand they want numbers, but yeah,
I have no problem with that. All right. I don't know. Oh well, it is what it is. So just show up. Wear white, show up. It is the whiteout game. See, that's what bothers me. Here's the show. Whiteout's a showcase game.
Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly what Peter King said to me. We were talking. It was after the Auburn game here in 21. He says, "Geez, Steve." He says, "That feels like it's a bucket list." I said, "Yeah." I said, "It really is." So you're taking a college football bucket list, and you're putting it where you're not maximizing the audience for it? Really?
And the other thing this does, it adds a little bit of ammo to networks for when the fan does complain and say, why do you not set the game in the beginning of the year? Well, we set Notre Dame and Florida State in the beginning of the year. We had no idea Florida State was going to be 1-8,
right,
and there's what you get.
And that I understand.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
that I understand. They get one Notre Dame game in prime time. That's it.
Yeah, they'll get. I think it's two. I think they get Army's prime time this year, I believe, too.
Really?
Yeah, the one at
Okay.
Yankee Stadium.
Great.
Yeah.
Well,
Army's,
it's prime. No, it's not on NBC though. That's not on NBC.
Is that not on NBC?
Well, if it's in Yankee Stadium, it's not. NBC only does games that are in South Bend.
Let's see.
Unless they've got a now I may be wrong in that what's Army in the American? Are they in the American?
Yeah, I believe so.
I mean, unless it's declared
Definitely a night game, I know. Let's see where that's.
I mean, unless Notre Dame took one of their home games and they sold it to Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, game is on NBC and Peacock.
Really?
November 23rd.
At
7
night.
PM.
7 p.m. That's great. Well, Army's undefeated, right?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously they get a little lucky there, but
Yeah.
but yeah, that's looks like that is a
Yeah.
The thing that does, I think, that night is what USC UCLA. I think that is probably going to be. That means those fans will be having the same argument we're going to be having here right now, unless it's Big Ten after dark, which who knows. But I think they'll probably be having that same argument we're having right now, because I get the sneaky feeling that'll be a night game.
Yeah. All right. Well, off to the press conference. Right. All the stuff that you said, right? All the analysis you put up is about to be refuted by somebody who actually knows the game.
That's right.
Versus a guy that stole a sweatshirt from the equipment locker at Medler Field, Lebrano Park.